We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes beyond the Walking Dead universe. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by Bridget, ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUASETER. And we're here to actually react to the episode you just watched of The Last of Us, titled Long, Long Gone. I want to start off by saying I don't take it for granted that you guys are here with us right now. I've been thinking about a lot of things as it pertains to like getting the show out there and how it is to kind of try to give you guys something that is worth watching, and the fact that you guys keep coming back and some of you new people come up and want to be a part of these conversations. It really means a lot. So I wanted to thank you for that. Oh, I forgot to turn on the Instagram stream. Well, it's on now.
Usually they know who we are.
Usually we don't have issues with the Instagram stream. Well, they missed the little intro. But again, we wanted to thank you for being here consistently. And if not consistently, hi, welcome. We talk about episodes beyond the Walking Dead universe. You could tell I'm kind of stalling for time to make sure people come in and all that stuff. Hey, Lois, how are you? She's on the YouTubes. That's great. That's nice. Okay, so where do we start? I think the first thing I wanted to talk about was I like to bring up stuff that we just didn't quite cover in the last episode. And okay. I had it in my head while I was watching, but I kind of forgot it now. It's fine. We'll keep going. Bridget, let's talk about first where you got up to in your gameplay as it pertains to this specific episode before we quite get into it.
Okay, so as you all know, or maybe you don't know if you're listening for the first time, but I have been playing through the video game concurrently to us covering the episodes. Now, I've just kind of shot in the dark. I'm going to stop here. The first week was the exact point that the first episode ended. Second week, exact point that the second episode ended. This episode was really weird in terms of like what happens to the characters and stuff. So
broad strokes though, like
pretty roughly same spot.
Well, I mean, in terms of what's different, like broad strokes, like is any of this in the game?
No. Like the majority of this episode was not in the game.
Okay.
Go ahead. There's a one-off line. I don't know, because it's a whole thing, Dave. Do you want me to like roll into it now? We can wait. We can talk about the episode first, and then I can roll into it. Well, it's like a whole different story.
What you had told me is this episode is basically based on a throwaway line from the game that they took and ran with for this episode. Essentially,
they did.
Right?
They did. It's complete. But the thing is that the story plays out completely differently in the game. So even with throwaway line, it's not like with previous things where I've been like, well, maybe this would have been something that would have happened before that we just didn't see.
Right.
And like maybe true to some of this, but
this was quite the leap, right? This was
very different. This was very, very different. Yeah.
I want to hone on something Lois just said. Was this one was off a bit, and I know why. It's because it's essentially a bottle episode, which got me smiling a million miles when I realized it. Like, you're halfway through the episode, about 45 minutes, and you're like, oh yeah, this is a bottle episode. This is good. It's going to be like this basically the whole episode.
I just kept thinking Sharon D's not missing anything pivotal to the timeline right now. That's all I kept thinking. And then and now that you say that, Dave, I don't like bottle episodes. I don't. Which is weird because I'm an anthology fan.
None of that makes sense. How does that make sense? Oh, no, it does make sense because in a serial, you don't want bottle episodes. But in an anthology episodes, okay, you're getting into. So.
Yeah, I'm like mentally prepared for it. I wasn't mentally prepared for this.
And yet, first impression?
Well, Nick Offerman. So
This is literally what you said to
I'm
me
not
in
mad.
the show.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I love Nick. I love Nick Offerman. On top of that, as it turns out, like you always think in your head like, I'm gonna be a real Joel if this happens. I'm gonna be a real badass. And no, as it turns out, I'm a real Bill. I'm a real Bill.
Well, he was a
I
badass too, though. I mean,
I
like
was cracking up though when him and Frank got into that argument, and
from
Frank is
when they
like,
first met.
when no, like a
Oh,
couple years down,
okay.
when they're arguing about like redoing the town or whatever. Like Frank wants to redo the town and like do it up and cutesy it up, which is great. I love that. You need a project, right? You need a hobby,
Yeah.
and obviously, and I love that he's like, well, you're like basically you're a conspiracy theorist. And I was like,
9/11 was an inside job. What?
I was like, oh man, this guy's speaking my language. And
The government
okay,
is
not
full of
that,
Nazis.
not that, but the government is full of Nazis line like cracked me up. I was laughing so hard out loud because I was like, okay, fair, like, right? There's like, they are, and he's like, well, yes, now,
I mean,
but
yes,
not
now.
before. And I was like, this is good. This is good stuff. I like it.
This is meaty. It's as meaty as Nick's, not Nick's. Yeah, Nick Offerman steaks. Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
Yum,
yeah.
yum, yum, yum.
Some good moments in that. It was pretty funny.
I can sum up my watch with 2 comments. One, I almost cried in 2 spots. This episode's got me in a surprising way. You know what? It's kind of like what sort of Rachel was saying last week in our full breakdown, which if you haven't watched it, we did our full breakdown live stream last week, right after the episode, as we've done the last few weeks, as well as a full episode breakdown last week. I mean, I say full episode, but it's basically the bits and bobs that we didn't get to in our first watch reaction live stream with you. And she had said she couldn't wait to tear this series apart. And even as we're watching the first 2 episodes, and the first episode was good. I mean, good, really good. Good enough to cover the next week. Second episode was even better. This episode, like, and here I am, I'm like, this is actually, this is good. This is good. This is a solid series. This episode got me like in a TWD way, where like, suddenly I'm getting really emotional. I'll tell you the 2 spots now. One, and tell me if you feel the same way. When Bill and Frank kiss for the first time, it suddenly, like the rug was pulled from under me, and I really, really, really felt that. Like he's been, he wanted the whole world to die. Kind of like he says in the letter. Like, had he not said the letter, I would have made the letter for him. He wanted the world to die. He couldn't wait for everybody to go away. And for, for 3 years, he got his wish, and suddenly he realized what he'd been missing out on. And he was all tense. You could see him as he's walking away to take a shower. He's like walking away like, all stiff like. He's like, I'm not used to this. What is this? What it could have been like for me all this time? Walking around like he walked away, sort of like a cartoon cowboy getting off his horse. He's all bow-legged, right? It's like the second part that I almost I got choked up a bit is when Ellie gets the part of the letter, use it to protect Tess, and that again, and purposefully, right? It's those 2 specific moments. How much time has Joel probably wasted by keeping himself all tight and tightly wound and not keep connections? And so where it's interesting, the first thing that you brought up in the first episode was, they kind of, they gave us a little bit more meat to the possibility of he and Tess having had something.
Yeah.
A little more meat.
You know me, I don't love that, but
it's still kind of nebulous.
They did kind of follow through on that here. Well, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. And again, maybe. It's still kind of nebulous, but you could tell that he was not okay with having read that part.
No, I did like that they gave they give them so versus the game, right? Because the game you just keep rolling, but danger's imminent. You just are rolling, rolling, rolling. So there is no time to process. So I thought it was nice that they gave Joel a little bit of breathing room in the woods, spending a little more time like kind of thinking. It's in the video game, it's like, yeah, they walk through the woods,
In silence.
but it's like it's so rapid because it's a video game. There's not going to be these long blocks of like dead time. You're not watching a TV show.
Right.
So the passage of time just felt slower.
Right. This is basically
And
the stuff that you don't see that gets jumped between like black, fade to black cuts in the game.
yeah. 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 So it gave them a little more breathing room to kind of focus on the fact that has to just die, and that's going to have some sort of emotional weight to it for Joel, but also I'm sorry, it sounded like a bomb went off just then.
I think Trav got it, whatever it was underneath the floorboards.
No, he's still in the living room. I don't know what that was. Oh, worrisome.
I'll let you finish your thought though. Yeah.
Yeah. So I lost it. The explosion.
Breathing life
took me out
into
of it.
the characters, essentially, that where there would be a vacancy between jump cuts, basically, in the
Well, it
story,
would just
in the
be
game
like,
story.
Tess died. Like, yeah,
Let's moving on. Right.
We don't have time to focus on anything else because a clicker is coming. So like that was kind of how it was in the game. So I do like that there's more time here to explore those human emotions.
Yeah, I like that the writers kind of like a weird balloon basically gave Bill some justice. Bill and Frank, essentially. Like they breathed a whole narrative behind. Listen, I haven't played the games. Just for context for people who don't know, who are just tuning in, etc. I haven't played the games. Bridget is playing the games. She got to the part where this episode ended off again. But what I can tell was that they giving them the flexibility to kind of create meaning to create the story, to give further meaning to our pair that is wandering this universe, Joel and Ellie. Like when you see Bill and Frank's story, it gives Joel like that, even if it's just a little bit of purpose for Ellie. You can tell it, like they're still like at each other's throats. I
could see that. I could see that.
Just like the strawberry seeds, it's planting these little narrative seeds that are going to grow. Because if Joel all of a sudden is like, "Oh, I'm going to protect you with all my life," it's hokey. You're not going to buy it. He's so cold.
Okay,
So
that's fair. That's fair, because in my mind I was kind of like this is fine. Like this is great storytelling.
Yeah.
But like, what was the point? Like I was just so.
Like all bottle
like,
episodes, right?
Great. Great. Now we're doing that in this show too. Come on, man. I've had enough of bottle episodes. So I was kind of
even before they start, I've had enough of them.
That's a fair point.
But
for you to bring up.
But do you feel that? Do you like take that in as a result of it?
I mean, I didn't initially. Again, my initial reaction is
let it simmer.
What's the point? But why do you do this to me? Why do you create characters with backgrounds and then just kill them off?
Which is
really cool. Thanks.
Something that we said both in last episode, and I put it in the blog too as well. Like, undoubtedly, I actually put it in the description for this live stream, knowing that I had a feeling that they would bring more characters on that we would just have to let go of. But I know deep down that they do this to further push these characters, the characters that we know we're going to be following forward. Kind of like what show?
It makes sense.
The Walking Dead. This happens on I mean, look, it doesn't happen once an episode, but no. You got to give these guys credit where credit is due, is that they somehow managed to do in one episode what would be very, very difficult to do in a single episode on The Walking Dead. It would be really, really sucky to kind of go and The Walking Dead has done this, brought a character on that you're like, hi, like Demetrius Gross's character on Fear the Walking Dead season 6, the opener, Josiah. Was it Josiah? No, Josiah's the twin brother. The first one was LaRue. I know the last name.
Emil.
Emil. That's right. Right. Everybody's like, well, I mean, he's a bad guy. Right. Whatever. But like, I like that guy. Why? Or
So much so that we'll make him a good twin.
it's so funny. The first episode of
people liked him.
the first episode of Fear the Walking Dead season 6, and then also the last episode of Fear the Walking Dead season 7, we got introduced to that character played by Holly Linden. I forget her character on the show, but I still follow her. And she's the woman who was part of that group on the island who was trying to take out the person stealing the babies. And Morgan tries to tell her not to confront the
Her
Padre
name was
people.
What was her name? Tess.
I think no, Anna, maybe. Anyway,
I don't remember.
it doesn't matter. She dies on the show. You're like, oh, come on. Anyway, we should say hi to some people. Lois, we said hi to, obviously. Teresa, you love this
Hi.
episode. Yay, Teresa Harper. Takira Lawrence, sorry. Like, don't be sorry. You're here now. What the? This will definitely go down as one of my favorite episodes ever. I already know. Well, you know what? In a way, I hope not, but I'm glad you like this episode, right? I mean, because you want these episodes to get better and better.
Yeah, I hope they get better. Yeah.
Takira also says, I haven't been able to pick back up in my walkthrough, so I know I'm way behind in the game now. Well, listen, you have shit to do. I get it. We've spoken. So just hang in with us. Hang in with my experience. Anyway, Lois Martin says, right, yes. Good assessment. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's what we do. That's why I love when everybody, you guys in the chat, Bridget, Sharon D, I love when you guys give me something I didn't think of. It just makes me appreciate the show that much more. And then we share that with you. And then we all get something out of it. And you're here now, and it's great. That's why we do this thing. I was going to get to a point. Right. So, the 2 times. Okay. So I was still in the middle of my assessment. The 2 times that I cried, I could sum it with that. And then
Yes.
I came into the room. And after the episode was over, I briefly went into the bedroom. My wife's a teacher. She goes to sleep pretty early. I go, honey, this isn't a zombie episode per se. You need to watch this episode. You're talking about a person who just has Parks and Rec on repeat. So like watching Nick Offerman.
She's going to love it.
Every day.
She's going to love it.
Honey, you're going to love this episode. It's such
she
a
will.
beautiful, beautiful story. And listen, I happen to love bottle episodes if you can do it right. And I like that it was bookended with Joel and Ellie. That's fine. That's cool. But if you can contextualize it to move these characters forward in a way, but also say something that is greater than just those 2 people, right? Because something that I had said I don't know in which episode, it could have been the full breakdown, the last one for Infected. And that was, the story could also be about age versus youth and pushing the next generation on. They could already be setting up Ellie to carry the weight of all the people who protected her to move her forward. So between Tess's bad knees going up 10 flights of stairs in the hotel, and Joel, who, God bless him, but he's getting older too. And now this episode with Frank and Bill, where it was just conscious in their minds that, they were getting older.
So I know things about the video game, like even though I haven't.
I was going to
played
say
the
something,
end.
yes.
And and this is killing me because I don't want it to lead to that point because I don't love that. I don't love it.
Half of me wants to say what you're thinking because I was kind of almost about to say it myself.
We're not going to ruin it for everybody else, but it's
like the one thing I don't want to say. Yeah.
I want to revisit this later at the end of this season.
Yeah.
I want to revisit these conversations.
Where he will undoubtedly survive. So, okay.
Dave, it's like Rick's arm all over again. Okay, like we
how many
can play
times?
it out differently.
How many
we
times?
Can play it out differently.
Let's read some more. Lois Martin. Lois Martin says it was really off the beaten path. Hence, bottle episode for me anyway. No, and Lois, in all of that, did you feel like this was a good episode though? That's what I want to know. Like, even though it kind of took you away from the main path, sometimes you have to do that to kind of give more reason for these people to do what they do. I think, but also it's for you. Sometimes it's not about Ellie and Joel, let's say. Sometimes it's about giving you a pair of glasses so that you can see the series a little bit differently. And that's basically what I was saying with the age versus youth. You're going to meet characters that come with different stories that make Ellie and Joel's journey have a little bit more significance. Like, what is the point of Ellie bringing the cure to all these people? How does that change what their lives could have been? And I think that's important. And it could be about something completely different. We could come into the next episode and it's absolutely awful. But even that would further contextualize the story. Takira says, I'm usually not a fan of bottle episodes, but this one I loved. Bill was so badass to me, and I could really identify with certain things about him. Yeah, I did too.
I think if you like The Walking Dead, you're like innately going to like Bill.
You know what? Let's launch into that point right after one throwaway comment I want to make is that, just like Nick Offerman's character in Parks and Rec, Bill's a libertarian. The don't tread on me flag.
Yeah. Yes, represent. Finally, the kind of representation I'm looking for.
You know what? And I just to add to that, I wanted to post about this on my private social media, but I got a letter from the New Jersey Board of Elections, and they said, since you register as a libertarian, you are no longer allowed to vote in primary elections.
Mm-hmm.
Because fuck you, right?
True. It's true. It's true. Yeah,
it's like the worst letter you want to get. It's like, yeah, because you're an idiot fence sitter, you can't vote in prime. I'm like, okay, yeah, but if you want to vote, you have to send a letter or notify 55 days in advance. It's just so corrupt. This whole New Jersey is just absolutely corrupt. Anyway, let's keep going.
Moving on.
Sure.
Moving on.
So let's contextualize what you just said, because there were points at which I was rolling my eyes, going to myself, okay, the Walking Dead fans are going to be eating today, because watching Bill just drive through to the Home Depot and all these, and the wine shop and all these different places, I'm like, oh, this is like a wet dream for all. This is me in the apocalypse. Oh my gosh. I'm like consciously aware of like, okay, I'm gonna have to deal with this when I get on with Bridget later.
Like, yeah, this is me. So those scenes, right? That's like the reason that Dawn of the Dead, the original,
right?
Do not get me started on the remake. Get out of here. Zack Snyder, whoever made it, that garbage. Anyway,
wow, that's close.
The reason I love Dawn of the Dead so much is because there's such an element of like, the world has ended and I have the freedom to just go get and do whatever I want. That has been so appealing to me for so much of my life. And probably it has a lot to do with like, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I still don't really have a lot of money. So like getting whatever I wanted is like not really a thing for me. So I think that probably has something to do with it. But it's also that idea of having like a purpose beyond just day-to-day life, right? Like that's why all of us become invested in the concept of like the apocalypse and dystopian futures and all that kind of stuff, is because it takes you out of your mundane life into something greater where you really have to live, like to live.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's not just floating through, going to my job and like, I have to write another email about this, like per my last email. Like, you're just having like these horrible, like
they're just not reading
situations.
My emails.
It's like that's the worst, right? There's like no purpose. It's like so small.
Right.
It's so small that this adds some weight to your life.
Right.
And what you would do with it. So
it's like that fantasy escapism sort of thing. Like, well, what if I didn't have to write this email? Like this could be great.
Yeah.
And I will put the clip of that exact conversation, because we made a clip of that exact conversation. I think it was Family or one of the last few Walking Dead episodes where we really launched into this, and we kind of had a back and forth. He was like, okay, isn't it just, you want to wreck it because it's hard? It is. And it is undoubtedly. Life can get hard. And so, and I'm listen, I don't want to take us away from the conversation, by the way, but we've had this conversation before, and I find it
Oh, yeah.
rewarding because we all know that at the end of the day, just like this world that we're experiencing in The Last of Us and The Walking Dead, sure, but we're talking about The Last of Us right now. I talked about the concept of kipple and like how when things fall apart, well, it's hard to bring everything back together again because there's so much kipple, all the junk, debris, waste, dilapidation, that you almost don't want to. And it's almost as if human nature is designed to basically give up when things feel just insurmountable. So what do you do now? So let's read a couple more comments. Lois says, I didn't hate it, but we go from Tess getting killed to this threw me off. Takira says, I was a bit nervous to see where it would go after Tess died, so also in line, but seeing her before she died with these people actually made me feel better. Yeah, that's another thing. I really did like seeing Tess again, and also in a different framing too. Not desperate Tess, not cold and bitter Tess, like Tess that got a break. You know, so like
hopeful Tess.
Yeah.
Like I'm making connections outside of the world. Yeah, it was interesting.
she's like the Frank of the conversation.
It was a real juxtaposition from what we've only seen and will only see. I mean, maybe there'll be other flashbacks, but
Yeah. Takira says, laughing, did I fall right into the trap of the episode? I can't wait to talk. And she says also, I can't wait to talk about the shootout, but I know we aren't there yet. Okay. Like a fantasy. Yeah, like a that's right, Lois. Like a fantasy. So okay, as far as Tess being the juxtaposition for Joel and then Frank and Bill's relationship, it does do the switcheroo thing too. Like, okay, let's go to where Bill gets shot and he keeps talking about, you know, I'm the older one. I'm going to go first. And then they do the switcheroo after he gets shot. And it's like, and I feel like, isn't it that Frank has MS? I want to say it feels
it's some degenerative thing, right? Like we could only assume
multiple sclerosis is MS. Yes. But I don't
could be
know.
MS, it could ALS. I mean, who knows? But whatever it is, there's not a cure for it.
And he's going to continue to suffer.
In 2013 or in 2003.
Right.
So there wasn't a cure for it before. And so I imagine it's one of those degenerative disorders.
Right. Oh, and maybe it is something that is curable now that wasn't then, let's say, because we're too worried. You never know, like, but it would be kind of interesting to know that it could have been something that is curable now or treatable now because civilization was allowed to continue for the last 20 years. And then that's something they couldn't fix then. But just like that, another thing that wasn't curable was intolerance. And that was was it the Defense of Marriage Act? I can't remember, but it was the Supreme Court decision that allowed the federal right for gay people to get married. So I thought that was very interesting to kind of put a button on because they didn't get married all this time. And was it 17 years?
I thought that was interesting because in my head I was like, well, the world ended. Like, who cares? Do what you want.
Right. But like, I think it's just that like, well, either it's this. Okay, let me throw something at you because there are some libertarians that don't believe in state-sanctioned marriage. But then you get to thinking, well, there really is no state. So this is about spirit. And you know, there's some libertarians do believe in faith and some don't, but either way. So, but it's like everything, right? Old habits die hard and old stigmas die hard too. So sometimes it's a bit offensive to say, you know, some people didn't want to, it's crazy because I've heard conversations about some gay people that not want to get married. Like they were like, well, marriage wasn't a thing for us. In fact, it's almost offensive, you know, that you know, we don't need you to recognize our union. Right. So,
fair.
Right.
That's fair. Like, I don't know. That's fair. I guess I don't know. I was just kind of like in my head, I was just like, well, the world ended. So like, what does it matter?
Right.
But again, it's not everyone chooses that path. So I don't know. I don't know what would have held you up, you know, over time.
You know, when
you figure there's not anybody to stop you, so who cares?
It's funny because like I personally had given up on marriage oof, like maybe, let me see, 2000, probably 2006, I want to say. I didn't really believe in it as a concept, and I didn't really think that was going to be for me. And
I did, but yeah, I didn't think it was gonna happen for me.
for me, it was more like I don't need it to happen. I don't want it to happen. If whoever it is I marry wants to get married, I guess I'll do it. I'm not the kind of person who's steadfast in something that I don't care about. Like if you care about it, okay, we'll do it. But I don't. It's not for me. But it's funny how, I don't know, it's such a cliche. So just bear with me. But when you find somebody that you want that with, and I still, as a concept, don't really jive with it, but there are things in life that come into your path that make you rethink things, and just keep your mind open to those things, because sometimes change is pretty cool. Because the fact that you can change is pretty crazy when you understand that it's really hard to change people. People, once they settle their mind on something, usually never change, because it's like part of their identity or belief system, you know? So it's, so to kind of take it back to this episode, the fact that maybe the switcheroo happened where it wasn't Bill that was dying, it was Frank, made Frank feel the urgency. You're gonna get those rings. We're gonna get married, and I'll be a part of you forever, essentially. And
Yeah.
Bill was just kind of like, was there any doubt? And that's basically how I got married, by the way. It was like, this just makes sense. You're right. There's no reason for me not to. There's nobody else I want to ever be with. And that's how I feel about it right now. Maybe another 20 years I'll feel differently, but I'm kidding. Not at all. Every day is a
never.
gift.
Actually, so that was the one part. And you know me, I'm a big crier, and I will cry during everything. Not a tear out of this face during this episode.
Really?
I don't know why, because it was very emotional, but I wasn't close enough to the characters, or I was playing through the video game in my head trying to figure out how this was going to fall into it. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
You got podcast brain, I think.
I guess
Maybe.
there was a moment. So it's not either of the moments you talked about either. It's
Good.
It's when they're at the table, and it's when, see, now I'm gonna cry now that I'm talking about it. It's when Bill says that well, Frank asks, you put pills in the bottle, didn't you?
I didn't have a doubt too.
And he's like, yeah, neither did I. And he's like, yeah, this isn't a sad suicide. Like, I'm going if you're going. And got me. That got me. And it's because, I guess it's because I'm married, and because I have someone, like, I can't imagine living without him at all. And like, I've been there. I've been like really low. Please let me just end it. I cannot do this anymore. I've been there before, but ever since I almost died, it's like the complete opposite. I'm like, nope, I never want to die, and I know that I will, but I want to be here a long time now, and I never used to be like that. But my life changed a lot around the same time, and so someone who's like been really low and also like almost died, like I can't imagine wanting to again, except for that.
Right.
Except for losing him, because like I just can't imagine how you would go on another day. And people, like, there are people that have to live with that.
Yeah.
Which is just like,
all
so
the time.
that whole,
Most people.
And that, oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. So that thought really got to me. That whole concept, that whole conversation, that one got to me.
Yeah. Well, for me, between watching this episode, having watched The Sandman, also the series on Netflix, I have been thinking a little bit more about my mortality. And on that note, it's kind of like there are moments where like I feel like, okay, I'm not going to live forever. And that pisses me off a little bit, because in my head, I have to keep that fantasy going so that I can live happy and full. And when I go, it's like, yeah, I guess okay. It's okay. Just like me getting married. Yeah, I guess this makes sense. I'm going. All right, that makes sense. Marriage, yeah, that also makes sense. Why not? Like, just keep going. You know, like it's if the signal says is green, why am I going to doubt it? Like, if you're feeling it, don't doubt the feeling, man. Anyway, so let me go to some of the comments because it kind of goes hand in hand. Takira says, shock of my life when it wasn't Bill in the wheelchair. Lois Martin says, I thought in the beginning Frank was going to kill Bill. And he had others waiting in the woods. You know, our TWD brains, I felt the same thing. He says he had 10, but he's a shitty liar.
Well, you saw him. You saw him looking towards the wood line.
yeah.
Like
well,
after he was like, wait a second, do you have a gun? Do you have a weapon? And then he's like pointing like wildly. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Lois also says, how do you fall into that big hole and not see it? Me and my wife have been together for 23 years, never seen the need to be married. In our eyes, we are. Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Love that.
Yes, Lois. You're going to make me cry. But yeah, but let's go back to the whole comment because, look, obviously, Bill's just 9/11 was an inside job. He's a crazy prepper. So he's going to make sure, damn sure nobody sees that trap. And you saw he put the chicken wire and the dirt on top of the chicken wire. So obviously grass grew on top of the trap. So once human weight went on that chicken wire, it's all over. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Takira says, Lois, I also thought Frank's storyline was going to be a completely different direction and not a good one. I did have that in my head as well. I'm like, ooh, how are they going to do this? And there is something I want to say about that, but let's keep reading. Lois, you are most definitely married. Lois says, love you, girl. Know how you feel. It's real. Takira says, I 100% know he was drinking it with him because that's exactly what I would have done. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I don't know if I would do the same thing. Again, we're going back to my original beliefs about marriage. It's like, well, because there is one thing that I have moved a little bit on, a little bit. Like I can see how this is appealing because of Fifi's, right? Because I don't believe in the one. I don't believe that there's one true person for everyone. But I do believe there are people that can walk into your lives and fill that spot in different ways. I that's what I believe. Now, I'm not saying this to sway anybody. I think people need to move in the direction that they feel is the best one. And I'm not convinced of that. But again, like I said, I've moved on that because I've met someone that's like, oh, I can't imagine life without that person. I can't, but I still believe that it's possible because it must be, right? It must be.
Well, I believe you can have more than one love in your life. Stuff like that. I mean, my grandmother just got remarried to someone she knew in grade school, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And, and she's happy and he's not my grandpa. He's a nice guy. Like he's a nice guy, but he's not ever going to take that place. Right. So he's not ever going to be like that person. But I mean, she loves him and she's happy and so fine. I'm like, good for you.
Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay, so Takira says never doubted for a second. Okay. To the bottle and the pills. Felicia says both Emmys, both of them. Don't know if they could be but so a tie, but give both actors your word. Goddamn. So I can tell that Felicia's emotional about this. I was too. You missed the part where I said one of the two parts in the episode I almost cried was one, that first kiss between Frank and Bill. That one was the one that really hit me. The Tess thing, saying protect Tess in the letter, that got me too, but not nearly as much as that first kiss. And then it keeps going, like, right? It's like having hot food for the longest time. It's like, oh, this shit's really hot, and it lingers. Like that scene in the bedroom was just like, it's his first time, and he never really kind of got around to exploring those feelings, it sounds like, or those actions. And so that really just kept lingering and lingering. It was just so sweet and loving and caring, and it just really got me. And how many of us have felt that first time? And basically, maybe all of us here right now. Is that, but like, right. It's relatable. It's so relatable. She continues by saying,
it's not. It's not.
well, not
It was
externally.
not relatable for me. It was not relatable at all.
Well, I guess it was for me. It's just that, but it's not really the external, what happens, but what happens in your head. Like, at least it was for me. It was just like, oh, I've never done this before. I'm kind of nervous. I'm actually even kind of scared. So that's how it was for me.
I don't
Alcohol
know.
was not
it
involved.
Depends. It depends. We'll move on.
We'll move on.
Anyway.
Felicia says, I'm not so much emotional, just very appreciative of the brilliance of the two incredible artists. Yeah. It was stupefying. I was stupefied. I was suddenly swept up. I didn't know what was happening to me. So let me see. What
Thanks.
else?
Then I got that Disturbed song stuck in my head.
Which one?
Stupefied.
Oh.
So thank you for that.
Lois says, I'm not sleeping
Anyway.
with anyone I do not love. You know, I've moved on that too. Takir says, it was 1,000% like that for me. What you're saying, Takir, just to clarify what I was saying, all those feelings. That's why I said it would be my
that's
fave.
nice.
So there's so many things that happened that really got me. Yeah. Just, it was definitely not the same. My first time was not with a man, but again, it's relatable. It's relatable.
It's not what I meant when I was like, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant at all. Oh, it's funny.
I just had a flash. Anyway, so I wanted to jump off one of those points to something else, and I can't remember what it was. Oh no, this is like the unfortunate disposition of having to do a live stream, is that you can't like go,
all right,
now what was that? But you can't for like 5 whole minutes while somebody says something else. 5 whole minutes, you're like, what was that thing that I was gonna say?
Let me launch into some stuff here, Dave.
Sure.
You ready for it?
Yeah,
you ready for the video game story?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you get away from the Firefly soldiers because that's
what's happening.
who you're with at the end when Tess dies. So you get away from them, and then you're gonna go visit this guy Bill because he owes Joel some favors. That's what you're told. And you get to this area, you have to like walk to where he lives, and you get into this area, and it's like he has his own town. So that was true. He has his own town. It is fenced off, and there are booby traps everywhere, which is why I loved that he was like making traps, because that was in the game. He had trip wires everywhere.
You're like, God damn it.
In the portion where Ellie goes over to the video game and she's like, this game and it's Mortal Kombat, and she's talking about it. So that's like a scene that can occur in the game if you go into this pizzeria. She's talking about a different game. It's like The Turning or something is what it's called.
Okay.
But anyway, she'll talk about that, like playing that. So you meet Bill because you fall into one of his traps and Joel is hung upside down by his ankle.
Oh God.
And the counterweight is a fridge that Ellie is trying to cut down with her knife by herself. And there's infected are like running in. And so you're upside down and you're like shooting. It's horrible. It's very intense.
Just to give a little context to why it's horrible for you, you had mentioned the last two
horrible.
times that you love the zombie genre, but you hate playing zombie games.
I don't like the games. And you should have heard me this morning because I was like, I was like freaking out while I was playing. But Travis had warned me about this scene because this is where he quit playing because he was like, he kept dying. And it was happening to me too. I was like, dude, I just keep dying over and over and over again. What am I even supposed to do? They won't go down fast enough. They're like running up to me. And if you run into a clicker in the game, unless you have a shiv or you can shoot it from like really, really, really far away, because it takes several shots.
Right.
They will just kill you every time. And so I've died to many a clicker. I will not lie to you. But I got through that portion and you're about to like die. Like, like an infected person is like on your face and all of a sudden it's killed by Bill. And then you're running and you're all running with Bill. And like you're running and then you run into like in a house and it's like he keeps walking you into like dangerous situations like because he's gone crazy
Oh.
because he's by himself. It's kind of like Princess. When we're first introduced to Princess on The Walking Dead, it's kind of that same thing where like he's talking to himself a lot and like he doesn't really want you there. He's not happy that you're there. He's not he doesn't like that Ellie is there. He handcuffs her like immediately.
Right.
Thank God he doesn't find out that she has a bite mark on her arm.
Right.
And as you're moving through, you end up in a house. You're like hiding, and you end up in a house, and all you see is the lower half of a body hanging
The lower half of a body hanging by its
from
ankles,
the ceiling.
or
From the ceiling,
Okay.
by its neck.
oh, by its So the upper
Yeah.
half, you mean?
No, you see from like chest down.
Oh. Okay, got you. The visual is of the lower half of body
Yes.
hanging. Right. Okay.
So
Oh no.
you see someone. It's someone in a Hawaiian shirt. Now, at one point prior to this, you've gone with Bill to kind of like his like bunker almost. It's not on. Well, it isn't a cellar, yeah. So I guess it is a bunker. You go into his bunker and it's filled with like random assortments of junk, and he gives you a shotgun. And while you're talking to him, he's saying like you should ditch this girl, and you don't tell him that Tess is dead. So he doesn't know. He's like, where's Tess? She would never have gotten herself into this. And he's like, Joel's like, it was Tess's idea to do this. And he's like, well, fuck her. And he's like, do not talk about Tess anymore. Like Joel's like, I don't want to talk about Tess anymore. And Bill tells Joel, like, get rid of this girl. Get rid of this girl. You just have to take care of her. There's no point. And this is the one-off line that I was talking about. At this point, he says, I used to have someone that I cared about, someone that I had to take care of.
That's the line.
Partner.
Okay.
The way he says it is like, it's like, it insinuates. So you're like, okay. And that's Frank.
And
okay.
It
is Frank.
Insinuation
The
is
body
that,
hanging is Frank.
Yeah.
You find out in this cutscene that Bill essentially cut Frank off and said, instead of losing you, I'm just going to not deal with having to protect you anymore. You're on your own.
Right.
And sends Frank out on his way. So Frank ends up hanging. And you find out he's bit several places all over his body. You don't see it. It's just what's said in the conversation. This whole time you're going on this mission into this town that's filled with infected with Bill to get it's his town, but like he's got his little area that's safe, and then there's like everything else. You're going to get a battery out of a truck, and you get all the way there and it's gone. Then you end up at this house where Frank is hanging, and Ellie goes out into the garage, finds a car. It's like almost starting. It like almost starts up. Bill opens up the hood and goes, it's my battery. So he feels bad about Frank for a second, like he let him down. But then he realizes that Frank had stolen his battery, and he's like, fuck this guy. So there was like no love lost there at all.
Right.
So it was really interesting to see like how different this was. This was very, very, very different.
Right. I mean, this must have been like a completely different way of looking at things, or meaning for the people who play the games, they could have at any point been like, oh, where are they going to change the story? Like we know it's going to go down bad, but like, where does it go bad? And then seeing that it doesn't, it totally flips the script, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Gives them a bit more
Yeah,
of
it was
a happy
really
ending.
interesting. It was really interesting. And the other thing is that where I played to, we have the truck. It is a truck. It's like the same truck. We have a truck. Ellie is in the front. She's trying to pop the clutch because the battery needs to get recharged by the alternator. So Bill and I are trying to push the truck down the street, but every couple feet infected roll up. And so you like push for a couple feet and then you got to stop and you got to. And so that's what I was in the middle of when I stopped playing today.
Perfect.
Because I was screaming. And Bill is like not a super likable character in this game. So he's fine. He's like kind of funny. But while I'm dying over and over again, I'm like yelling at Bill the whole time that I'm playing. I'm like, Bill, you idiot! You idiot!
much in the way I was yelling at Princess, like, oh my God, we got to deal with this.
Because first. I was so angry because there's clickers and I don't have any shivs and that's the only way I can kill them. But he can kill them just regularly, but he's not hitting them. He's like, so I'm just screaming at Bill the whole time. So that's where I stopped because I was getting very worked up and I was like, I need to be done with this right now.
Right.
And so that's where I stopped playing. But it is essentially at the same part because we're in the truck.
Right. Oh, so yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're going to have to get past that part and then you could finally like get to the next episode, essentially.
Yeah.
Let me read what Felicia's saying. Has said, I'm reminded of Black Summer's season 2 episode White Horse, where the whole episode is just 2 characters, effective, iconic. Yeah, you know, I watched Black Summer season 2.
I'm trying to think of which one that is.
If I'm not mistaken, it's the one with.
Is it the one they're looking for the ski resort?
Yeah, exactly. And the very next episode, blah blah blah, stuff happens, etc. Yeah, it is kind of sad. Yeah. It has that same vibe. Essentially, bottle.
Yeah.
Black Summer was full of bottle episodes, though. That's it follows essentially one or two people.
Filmed during COVID.
Yeah, that too. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder when season 3 will come out. Anyway, Takira says they said they approach certain things in the game, and if they can come up with a better story, they change it. Well, yeah, kind of like The Walking Dead, really, too, right? And which, by the way, like I really, really liked the changes they made in The Walking Dead as well, like. You know, not taking Rick's arm away and, you know, pulling back from certain things that would have made the story seem more comic booky, but not really something that would mimic real life necessarily. Like down to the dialogue too. Like the one thing I'll say, and I have said it on the show, is that Kirkman tends to write in a male voice. Even his female characters sound male. Like, and what I mean by that is that some of the females will say things that they would never say, except in like maybe like the more perverted animes. I don't know. Anyway, say, you know, if you've read the comic books or at least some of the panels that I've read, it's like, oh yeah, it's like Chuck Palahniuk again. It's like his female characters sound like men. It's some people can't write out of their own, like from someone else's perspective. Or like, oh, how would I say this if I was a girl? You can't do it. It is a diss, but whatever. It doesn't take away from your enjoyment.
It's never bothered me once. So
yeah, exactly. Takira says, and that was something that they felt strongly about changing. I think it was a great idea. I wouldn't have been into the game's story of Bill. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I'm still with Bill, so I don't know if there's more to that story that I'm just unaware of. So
right. Well,
there could be more. He could be better. I don't know. He's just
so far
he's kind of a crazy jerk. Right. but that is kind of the brashness that we're given at the beginning of this episode too. So
it's almost throughout, really.
Yeah.
But I like how the show is giving you 20 years of people allowing themselves to be changed, and that's going back to the original point. That's what we may see from Joel bit by bit, seed by seed that is planted. Like, what is it going to take to move Joel in a space where he can live again? Because just like the broken watch he still wears, he stopped living 20 years ago. September 26, 2003. I remember the date in the show. You know what I'm saying? So, which is his birthday. I think it was, right? So at some point, he's going to have to ditch the watch and say, okay, it's time to be a part of the world. Felicia reminds us it's Spears and Braithwaite. Yeah, it was exactly what I thought. Okay, good. which I liked. That was like the one part of that season that I really enjoyed, is the ski resort period.
I remember it being so tense though.
Yeah, same. But there was a sort of
that whole show though. Every time I'm watching the show, I'm like,
like, do I need to see a doctor for this? Yeah,
praising myself.
It's
such a tense show.
Like the whole 2 seasons, but the second season particularly, it just reminded me of the season 7 season premiere of The Walking Dead. Like, I never felt that much. My heart was palpitating. I never felt that in my life until I saw Black Summer season 2, essentially, and a little bit of season 1 too. It's like, oh my God, how can you feel this way every episode? It's just bad. Lois says he might find a battery and fix it. Well, I mean, he basically used the chemical reaction to start the car up. He basically recharged the truck off screen, Joel. So there you go. That's something I wanted to talk about was, okay, yes. I like what they did for the teaser to this episode, because you don't get present day Bill and Frank in the teasers. You get like the young versions of them in the episode. And I thought that was cool, because when and you know how it is with teasers of any kind, for some reason you can see these plot points coming. They show you a flash of an older version of somebody. It's like, where's the reveal? Can't we just keep some things under wraps? Did not see old Bill coming. I liked it. I was like, that's how you do it. Keep the reveal under wraps. When I saw old Bill and Frank, I was like, thank you for not revealing. Because when I got to see them in present day, it's like, okay, this is how it was meant to be. I should feel something when I see the older versions of them. The thing that they kept reminding us that they were getting older and not knowing what that would look like. That was nice. On top of them almost making me cry. It's some spots. So I don't know. Did you notice that? It's like, oh, well, okay. First he was long haired, brown with salt and pepper.
I didn't watch the teasers.
Okay.
To any of these episodes. So
there you go.
So I won't watch the one for next week. I go in with a different perspective, because I go in with whatever's happened on the video game. So I get like a different type of teaser than you get.
Sometimes I can't help it, because the teaser is right before the inside of the episode or insider. Sorry. So it's something you just have to kind of watch until you get to the meaty parts, which we're gonna, by the way, just in case you want to, we're gonna be going live again this week, so that you can join us with our notes. You take notes, you read some articles, you watch some teasers, you watch some behind the scenes. Kirsten Acuna, actually, we were just talking about this, had posted a little early, about 20 minutes early. She didn't check the runtime for this episode. She posted basically a short video on her channel, which we plugged earlier this week, with Neil. I was gonna say Greg Garcia. He looks like Craig Mazin. Druckmann and Mazin. Why they changed Bill's story. So I am gonna put that in the blog now that I've mentioned it, so that you can watch it. I'll put it in the chat too. Why not? I have it queued up right here. The title of that is why HBO's Last of Us changed Bill's story from the game, and I'm gonna do it right now because I can. I think. Let me see here. And so this way you can watch it after. Stay with me, but after, because I haven't watched it yet. After you watch us, and let me stay with me. Let me just pause because I haven't watched it yet. And here you go. So this way, I give you the goods. And now subscribe to her channel and enable all notifications, please. Just because, and tell her Dave sent you in the comments to this video. tell him Squawking Dead sent you. And there'll be like a whole bunch of comments saying Squawking Dead sent me. I'm like, oh, it's like an undead army. Anyway, so there you go. Okay, so let's read some more comments before we continue. Lois says his watch. Oh, okay. Lois says, okay, he might find a battery and fix it for his watch. So thank you, Lois. Thank you for clarifying. Takira says, sidebar, I'm a huge Black Summer fan. Yeah, I love Black Summer. I do.
Me too.
There's something about it that I like. Sometimes I can't Like season 2 almost took me out of it because I felt like it didn't go anywhere. But other than that, like, listen, you want anthology and bottle episodes? Black Summer, through and through almost. It had like a thin story arc in the first season. Second season, I felt like had also an even thinner story arc. But like, I mean, how can you not watch that show? It's like a workout. You get a workout every episode. Your heart starts beating. You're like, I don't know what's going to happen next. Okay. Lois says it was a beautiful storyline. Felicia says one of The Walking Dead's more pitiful traits. Oh, thank you.
Felicia Ray tipped $5.
Says Felicia Ray
Thanks
tipped
for all you do, guys.
Oh, thank you, Felicia.
What? Thanks, Felicia.
You see the little GIF on the screen? It's like of Nicholas saying thank you. You'll see it afterwards. Thank you, Felicia. So one of the Walking Dead's more pitiful traits, most frustrating tease. Right. Well, you know. Oh, hey, Chris Ray, Felicia's husband. Squawking Dead sent me. I meant on her video, but anyway. Well, thank you, Rays.
He knew what you meant. He knew what you meant.
The undead army's coming for us. 2. There's no innocent victims, everybody. Okay, so and I completely just threw me off the rails, Felicia. You just threw me off my track. I have no track. This is live. Who cares? So
well, I'm sorry to say, Dave, that I am gonna have to go to bed soon because, like your wife, I also
work in a school.
Should have been in bed like 3 hours ago.
Yet we stayed up to watch the show and react to it live.
I know,
and it's just as well. We've reached our hour. I can't think of anything else I wanted to talk about that I knew I wanted to talk about. But we did hit on some of the things I did want to talk about, like how gay marriage was basically ratified because of the Supreme Court decision in 2000 and was it 9 or 11? Can't remember which. No, I think it was later. Thank you, Felicia. Yes, your work here is done. My watch has ended. Game of Thrones. Yeah, I can't. I know that there were little things which we will cover in the live stream this week. So
yeah,
let's just do this. We're going to wrap up right now. I want you to make sure you do a couple of things before we go is like this video, share it with others. Then take out your pencils. No, I'm kidding. Then make sure you're subscribed and enable all notifications, not just on our YouTube channel, but primarily that. If you are on a social media platform that you prefer, just make sure you enable at least post notifications, if not story notifications, because sometimes we have links in there that we want you to go to for certain videos or articles or something, or other people's cool stuff like art and stuff. A lot of stuff.
and stuff.
But
and things.
If you like what you heard, really, head over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. Leave us 5 stars and an eggplant on your preferred podcast platform. That's all we need to know that you love us, but tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. But remember to tell us after every episode or just in general. And if you really, really like what we're doing, all you need to do is follow us on either ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead. You don't have to buy us a coffee like Felicia did just now for 30 days of supported back content, and you don't have to join a membership tier for as little as $1. All you need to do is follow us. That's when we put our recording schedules, when we do pre-recorded episodes, not like we're doing now. We're going to be going live for this. I don't know, but for the remainder, we're still trying certain things out. We're still improving graphics. We're still improving our live streams. But it's good to do because you will get our recording schedules for free when you do follow, when we do eventually do pre-recorded content, and for other cool things as well that you may be interested in.
Like sudden Jackbox games.
Yeah, that we're trying to do more of, actually. But if you do end up buying a membership tier for as little as $1, joining a membership tier for as little as $1, you will be able to actually join our Discord, our Squawking Dead Discord, where we have tons and tons of conversations, more than we do on either Patreon or Ko-fi. It helps you become part of our logistics. Like when we record, we include everybody when it comes to when we want to record, so that as many people as possible are going to be there in either the real-time chat, or if you're in the survivors tier, to join us in these episode breakdowns, because we do consider all of you when we when we go live, and you can join us on screen, on camera, and mic, breaking these episodes down with us. We're like right now, had you have joined the Survivors tier. So without further ado, I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by Bridget, ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. You should follow her there too. PUNKYBRUISETER. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. I really, really like that you were here. You guys added so much to this content. And again, I want to reiterate, I don't take it for granted that you guys come here and add to this content because we are squawking dead. Let's see how long I could not say anything.
That was a little weird. Love you guys.
Good night, everybody. I can't do it.
Good night.
Firefight was badass. Takira says, Lois Martin says, hand pink waving. I'm sure it's a pink hand that's waving. Takira Lawrence says, love you guys. Bye.
Bye.